And howdy, folks. Anthony Dream Johnson here today, founder of the 21 Convention, the 22 Convention, and 21 Studios. Here, this very special episode of the Red Man Group, episode 117. And joining me today will be the one and only, the amazing, the esteemed Reverend, Mr. Jesse Lee Peterson. Jesse, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming on today again. And I look forward to meeting you as well soon at the 21 Summit, where the conference is for men, women, and fathers who are going to make patriarchy great again and women great again.
You're a little late for White History Month. We had White History Month in July. We celebrated the third year. And then last month, August, we had Men's History Month.
Yeah, I saw that on
White
your Twitter.
History and happy Men's History.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, talk to me. Did you start White History Month? Did you found that?
Yes, I did.
Why did you do that? I thought white people were evil and everything. That's what everybody in the media tells me.
It's not true. That's why I started. Well, okay. I started White History Month 3 years ago because if you notice, they celebrate Black history, women history, homosexual history, flat Earth history, all kind of history. White history, all of a sudden, is wrong. You shouldn't talk about it. They're destroying the statues and monuments and flags and everything. And if it wasn't for white people, there would be no America. And so I started White History to show the appreciation to white Americans for founding and creating the greatest country on this earth. So I want to remind people of what white people have done so that we all can be free here in America.
Sounds good to me. Now, what about, you mentioned that August was Men's History Month, so that just ended. So what about men? Aren't men toxic and fathers are useless and all these things? Why would you do men's history?
Well,
it's just, wild.
The same thing, to remind people that if it wasn't for men, there would be no women and children, and that there is an order to God, and that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children, and that men are the most hated species on this side of heaven right now, because even in a fallen state, they still represent sons of God. And as you know, that when men are weak, women and children go to hell in a handbasket, because the real power is in the man. It's not in the woman, it's in the man. I saw that happen to Black people. At one point prior to the Civil Rights Movement, Black people were upstanding people. They worked, they had families, no abortions and all that crap. And then they allowed the children of the lie to get rid of the Black man. And once they got rid of him, the Black women and children went to hell in a handbasket so bad that now they have an organization called Black Lives Matter that was founded by a bunch of fat, Black, radical lesbians who hate God, who hate the nuclear family, who hate capitalism.
They're all feminists too, right?
Children. And if they had fathers, that would not have happened.
Yeah. So talk to me about Black Lives Matter. You just brought this up. Isn't Black Lives Matter good for Black people, or is it bad and is it evil?
Black Lives Matter is one of the worst things that ever happened to Black people. And the next worst thing before that was the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement should have never happened. And there's no such thing as the Civil Rights Movement. Black people were sold to the Democratic Party by the so-called Civil Rights Movement. And that's why we have Black Lives Matter today, because they are angry lesbians, hateful lesbians who hate men because they don't love their fathers. And I can't believe that. And I never imagined that in America, there would come a day where men, people period, but especially men, would be following fat, Black, radical lesbians, bowing down to them, destroying the country behind them, listening to what they say. Is mind-blowing to see that. And especially for white people. I understand that Black men are weak and they can't help it because they have a woman's mindset. But I never imagined see white people following a bunch of fat, Black, radical lesbians, washing their feet and doing all that crap.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that, before the, Civil Rights Movement, before the 1960s, you mentioned the Black community then in America and how it was different. There was families, and men were stronger and fathers were more present. So would you say today, because, some of my Black friends and Black speakers that'll be presenting at the convention with you, they've said that the Black community in America today is actually a matriarchy. It's not a patriarchy, and it's been that way for a long time. So would you say, and do you agree that the black community in America is like a matriarchy? Maybe
It
because of
started,
single
abs-
motherhood?
absolutely, and it started with the civil rights movement. If
Okay.
the civil rights movement had never come along, I guarantee you black people would be better off today than any other time because they would be married, they would have children, the parents would set a good example. The kids would learn to treat all people the way that they would like to be treated. They wouldn't be thinking of themselves as a group, but they would be individuals. They would love God. Most black people today, not all, but most black people hate God. Even though they go to church, they hoop and holler, they sing about him, but they hate him. And because black men and women have been influenced by their mothers, they now have the woman's mindset. They think and act like a woman. They get angry, they overreact, they're blaming others, they want reparations, they want everything free. And that's not normal for a man to think that way. They have leaders. And when I was growing up, it was nothing like that at all. It was unheard of for a man to have some other man leading him, but it's typical now in the black community. They think of it as normal. They don't even realize that there is anything wrong with it because the men think just like the women.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the civil rights movement that affected these things, and so that's your position on that. Now, feminism, of course, had its second wave, so-called, around the same time.
Yeah.
And we've seen since then, we've seen single motherhood skyrocket, especially for the black community, but also for white people and Hispanic people.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's very destructive and very bad. But how does feminism play into your position on these issues and single motherhood and all that for the black community?
Well, once the so-called civil rights leaders, people like Martin Luther King, Jesse Jackson, and others, once they made the deal with the Democratic Party that, okay, because black were Republicans prior to the civil rights movement. And so the civil rights leaders made a deal with the Democratic Party. Okay, we'll sell you to black people if you let us be their leaders. And Lyndon B. Johnson and others agreed to that. Okay, give us the black people to the Democratic Party. We'll let you be their leaders. And they set them up that way and put the fathers out. And once you get rid of the fathers, it's easy to deceive the women and children. And so the feminist movement came along. They saw that black people were no longer in control. They were no longer controlled by men. And so they said, oh, okay, so we want women's right. The woman is enslaved, the woman this and that. And it wasn't going to work unless they brought the black people into it. And they said, you're treating the women in the same way you treat the blacks. And so the black people fell for it because they thought it was love. They thought the feminists loved them. And so they made the black woman feel good about being wrong. She joined the movement, and it's just been down here ever since. And now today, if you want destruction, all you have to do is rent a black. If you want, whether it's abortion, homosexuality, destroying the cities and state, pulling down monuments and destroying statues, whenever you want to destroy something, unborn children, you rent a black. But if you want to build something, you got to rent a white because the blacks are not going to build. It's in their nature. They've been recreated for destruction and not to build.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about this. One of a hot take on questions here I want to go through with you.
Okay.
Now, let's put it this way. My friends put this to me: is thug energy feminine energy, like thug?
100%. The anger that you see in thugs, the anger that you see in gang members and drug addicts and all this violence, is the anger of the woman. It came from their mothers. It's abnormal for a man to be angry. It's not his normal state of being. Any man that has anger is a woman.
Okay. Wow.
Any male that has anger is a female. He's a woman.
Now, we were talking too about patriarchy in relation to all this, or fatherhood and men. Is patriarchy God's plan for families, strong fathers that lead their families?
100%. And nothing is going to work but that. No programs, no white people deny what's really wrong with black people, no affirmative action. You can give black people America. White people can say, okay, Black America, y'all can have it. You can have all the money in the banks. You can have all the land. We're going to leave and go back to Europe, wherever white people came from. And in 10 years, America would be destroyed, because if the man don't take over and lead the way, it's only going to get worse. It cannot get better. No way.
So you would say it's accurate to say that you think Black America needs patriarchy, a lot of patriarchy, fast.
It's an emergency. They need it now. They need it right away. I've been saying it for 30 years. That's why my nonprofit, Bond, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny, we are rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. We got to bring back that order of God. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. You think, you see what's happening in South Africa, where the blacks have taken over, and they are robbing, raping, killing white people along the way. They got rid of the police force, so white people are not protected. They go into the white people home. They rob them and rape them in their home, their families, their daughters, and their wives. And then they are taking their land without compensation. And unless things change, that's going to happen here in America, because white people are afraid, and there's nothing to stop these people. The Black Lives Matter group are already chanting, "Come out of your home." Black people used to live here. And
Death to America, they're saying too, all kinds of crazy stuff, violent.
Yeah. And so in these cities, they have Black female mayors and congresswomen and police chiefs and councilwomen and all that crap. And they're setting up to take the white people land, because whites are afraid to stand up for themselves. They will take your land. We will have, it's already happening in America, but we will have South Africa in America due to the fear of white people.
Okay. Now, do you love white people?
I love white people.
Why? Why do you love white people?
Because I have no hatred in my heart.
Okay.
And so I love all people, even my enemy. And so those people who hate me, I love them too. Not with mama's love, but with perfect love. The love that comes from the Father. And I hold nothing against anyone. I don't agree with all this evil stuff, this mess that's happening. But I understand the people that are doing it, they can't help themselves. Satan is their daddy. And I'll call them out on it, but I don't hate them for it.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about, obviously, BLM quite a bit here. And I mentioned, I think, briefly Antifa. In your opinion, what's worse for America and more destructive, Antifa or Black Lives Matter right now?
Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Because white people will correct white people. They'll yell at Antifa, but they will not yell at Black Lives Matter. White people are afraid of the word racism. They're afraid of being attacked, so they're not going to correct Black Lives Matter. So that will make them worse. They won't correct them because they are Black, and now they won't correct them because they are radical Black lesbians. And white, most men, not all, but most men are afraid of women anyway. And so they're definitely not going to stop. They're not going to correct Black Lives Matter. If you look at the election what's happening now, Kamala Harris and others, Oprah and Big Mama Michelle.
That's a nasty woman. Nasty woman.
That's an evil woman, man. I didn't realize how evil Oprah is. But they are saying to the white people, at least to white women, that white women don't care about Black women. White women don't put us, they don't, I forgot exactly how they put it, but they're saying that white women don't care about Black women. So they're doing that in order to try to make white women feel guilty, so they can step aside and let these radical Black women walk in and destroy America. They're trying to manipulate white women again. Yeah.
Now, here's a quick question. Are feminist men alpha males or beta males?
Beta male all the way. Yeah. Because an alpha male, number one, he doesn't have any anger, and he's overcome being a male and developed into a man. He is a son of God. He represents perfect love. And unless you've been born again of the Spirit of God, which should be of your earthly father, you can't help but be a beta male, because you have your mother's identity. You got to overcome your mother's and return to the father's.
What about liberal men today? Are they alpha males or beta males?
No such thing as an alpha liberal male. There's no way you can be an alpha male and be a liberal. What you're saying is that you're a woman.
Okay. I can't agree more. I just want to make sure we get your opinions clear on these issues. Let's talk a little bit about Barack Obama. Now, he was a black man or half black or whatever. Didn't he help Black America? I mean, he was president 2 terms. Didn't he help Black America?
Not at all. He helped to bring them down. As a matter of fact, Obama, and I said it before he was elected, that Obama would go down in history as the worst, most hated president we've ever had, and this country has ever seen. And so it's true. Obama, instead of uniting the country, he divided them like no one else in the history of America. He divided the races. When Trayvon Martin thing happened, he said, if I had a son, it would look like Trayvon Martin. Yeah. When that incident happened in Massachusetts where the cops were looking out for the black professor, Obama said they acted stupidly. Obama, when Black Lives Matter was chanting, what do we want? Dead cops, when do we want them? Now. Pigs in the blanket, fry them like bacon. Obama invited the heads of the group to the White House. Rather than having them arrested, repudiating them, he invited them to the White House. Obama didn't do anything about the black-on-black violence in Chicago. Where he came from Chicago, supposedly. He did nothing about that. It got worse rather than getting better. The economy went to hell in a handbasket. Obama, and I wasn't surprised because black people don't know how to build. They only know how to destroy. So, and I told the people, if y'all vote for Obama, he's going to turn America into a ghetto. And that's what he did. He almost brought it to her knees.
Yeah. Thank God for Trump.
Yeah. The great white hope.
I just wanted to ask you, I've heard you call Donald Trump before the great white hope. Why is he the great white hope? Isn't he bad, orange man bad?
Because he's making America great again. He doesn't have fear. The president is a perfect example of what a male should become. A man with no fear. He doesn't care if you're black or white. He doesn't care if you're male or female. When you're wrong, you're wrong. He's going to tell you the truth. He stand up and fight. He's been fighting since day one against the children of the lie. The children of the lie is the liberal media, the Democratic Party, the Neville Trumpers, the Rhino Republicans, the black race hustlers, and our foreign enemies around the world. This man has done more for this country in the last almost 4 years than Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush, or any other president of recent time has ever done for this country. And in spite of having to fight his enemies from within and without, he does not give up. He doesn't get angry. He operates in perfect love.
Now, do you believe that Donald Trump loves black people or doesn't like them?
He loves all people the same. He doesn't love blacks any more or less than he loves white people. He doesn't love blacks any more or less than he loves Hispanics and all the American citizens. He loves all people. He doesn't discriminate due to race at all. He loves all people.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
That's why you have more black. I'm sorry?
I said I can't wait to vote for him. I agree 100%.
Yeah. That's why you have more black people supporting him this time around than even before, because they see what he's all about. The media is not able to deceive them.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the black race hustlers a little bit just a couple minutes ago. Talk to me about them. Who are some of the worst offenders of that? Jesse Jackson, you mentioned?
Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Louis Farrakhan, the NAACP, the Congressional Black Caucus, the so-called black Democratic representatives, the black preachers. Most black preachers are not called by God. They're called by their mama. When they were growing up, their mama said, they said something kind of cute. And the mama said, one day you're going to be a preacher, boy. And so they grew up, became preachers. But they hate white people. They hate the blacks. They're using blacks for their own personal gain to gain power and wealth. And that's what the black so-called representatives and others are doing. And we've been trying to wake black people up to that point for a long time, but because they're angry, they cannot see. Most black people hate white people today. If not all, most. They hate white people today.
Yeah, that's very sad. I've seen you interview young blacks on the street, and since you're older, they have a respect for you. You can tell, and they even tell you that. But then you ask them if they love white people, and they get all upset and they get mad at you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Even on the Fallen State, my TV show, the fallenstate.tv, I ask black people all the time, do you love white people? I love all people. Do you love white people? I love all people. Do you love
Yeah.
white people? They'll say, I love black people. We're like, well, do you love white people? They cannot say they love white people. White people are the most hated species on this side of heaven because the rest of society are jealous and envy of them, and that they're able to do so well. They're able to be creative. They're able to build. They keep amazing communities. They invent things where the blacks and others cannot do that. And so rather than learning from them, from the whites, they want to destroy them. That's what jealousy and envy is all about.
Yeah, very negative, very disgusting.
The unfortunate thing, though, that white men are afraid to speak up. I never thought that I would see white people being so afraid. When I was growing up in Alabama on that plantation, I admired white people because they were not afraid to speak up. They loved their country. They protected their families.
Yeah.
That's gone now. They're leaving their kids wide open to be robbed and raped and murdered. And there was I saw a video or something yesterday where there was a woman in New York waiting at the train station there, and some black guy tried to rape her at 11 a.m. in the morning, right in front of everybody.
Yep.
That was mind-blowing.
Craziness. Crazy.
Because the blacks know that it's okay now to kill, rob, and rape white people, and they won't be punished for it.
Yeah. Very sad. All the peaceful burning and looting. It's got to stop.
I know. What a mess, huh?
Yeah. It's been this whole year has been nuts.
If that's peace, show me destruction.
Yeah. Let's talk a little more about feminism. We focused down to Black Lives Matter a little bit, these other issues. Feminism's been around for a long time. Feminists think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I have a very different opinion. Is feminism evil? Do you think? Is it bad for women or good for women?
100% evil. Because what it does, it turns women away from men. In return, turning them away from God. It made women think that they are smarter and better, and they have to convince themselves all the time that they're stronger, which is not true. There's no such thing as a strong woman. It's just they're weak men.
Yeah.
Feminism, they are educated now, and I've said to men over and over again, if you want to have a family, do not marry an educated woman, because an educated woman would not make for a good wife and a good mother. She want to be in competition with the man. She would try to make the husband become the wife before she would stay home and raise her own children.
She's probably a slut too, right?
So what now?
She's probably a slut too, right?
All college. The way. Yeah, absolutely. And no one want to marry a slut to be your wife and the mother of your children. And so it's a bad idea. And it would change if men were to overcome the fallen state. They could bring women back to their proper state of being. And there are men who are waking up. I hear from men around the world now who are forgiving their mothers, who are returning to their fathers, and they're starting to become right and do right. And that's where the change is going to happen.
What do you think about feminism? Promotes a lot of very, in my opinion, negative messaging, toxic masculinity, the future is female, which is supremacism, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the toxic masculinity thing? Do men need to embrace masculinity? Is this, what are your thoughts on that stuff?
They hate masculinity because they hate God. The feminists do. And so they call it all kind of names because they want to get rid of it. They want to turn men into weak little women, emotional women. And so they're attacking masculinity because that spirit inside of them hate God.
And God is the father, masculine, yeah?
That's right. When you hate God, when you hate the father, you hate the son. And so they hate God. And that's why there's an attack among boys and men today. Yeah. Because they want to turn the boys into little girls, make them take off their body parts and put female body parts on it. That's one reason I don't understand why parents would send their children to a public school today. They can now see, due to the Chinese virus thing happening, all the terrorist attack up on America now by Antifa and that radical Black Lives Matter. They see what the schools have done to the children. And instead of keeping their kids home and homeschooling them, the parents are like begging to reopen the schools and put their kids right back into those social camps of destruction rather than looking out for their own children. I have never seen parents who hate their children so much.
Yeah, it's brainwashing them with feminism and liberal crap and anti-man. And yeah, the boys get fed pills and they get the body
Yeah.
parts chopped off. It's nuts.
It's
Insanity.
not going to end though until men say no more. If
Yeah,
men wake up, this stuff will end. But as long as men are weak and afraid, it's only going to get worse rather than getting better.
I agree. Now, we talked about sluts a little bit. Now, there's a lot of sluts today because of feminism and thought. We call it thought culture and hookup culture and all this stuff. But can you de-slut a slut? Is that possible?
You can't. The slut have to realize that she's wrong for being a slut and
Okay.
why that happened to her. And once she realizes what happened, she can overcome it. And then men have a responsibility to lead women anyway. And so men need to stop having sex out of wedlock, wait until marriage, do the right thing, and then the woman can't help but follow. So it's really up to the man. But the woman can do it if she admits to herself that she's wrong and know that she's wrong. She can overcome it. God will forgive her. She can overcome it. But if male were to become men today, then the slut will have no other choice but to overcome, because the men would not use them in that way, and they would get better rather than getting worse.
But they got to admit that they're a slut and then
They
stop.
got to admit it. Yeah. They have to admit that they are sluts and know there's something wrong with that. And they will see what happened. And then seeing what happened, why they became that way, they will overcome it.
Yeah, and sluts, in my opinion, they're very unhappy. They're very miserable. They
All
fake
sluts are unhappy.
Yeah, they fake on the internet. They put the makeup on, the fake smiles, all this stuff on Instagram. But then they're just miserable and they got no babies or they got no daddy around for the baby.
Yeah.
And they end up cat babies. They have all the cats and things, the wine they drink,
Right. They're yearning for a father's love. That's what they want. And so all this stuff you see them dancing and shaking their nasty butts and doing all that crap, they're really longing for a father's love. And sometimes they meet men who they think are in control of their own lives, men that can lead the way. And instead of getting love, a father's love from the man, they get screwed. The men, because the men are subject to women right now, so they get used rather than the men pointing them in the right way, showing them how to overcome that.
Now, in your opinion, do we need to? You've made it clear that you don't like feminism. You think it's evil. I agree.
Yeah.
Do we need to abolish feminism in America and repeal and replace with something more positive?
Yeah.
Abolish it.
The one thing that I can assure you, our battle is a spiritual battle. It's a warfare between good and evil, right versus wrong. And all that goes out of control when men are weak. And I can assure you, if men were to wake up, then feminism would disappear, because the man has the authority over the woman. Women do not have authority over the men. They have it as long as men are in a fallen state. But once the men wake up, feminists has no other choice. This feminist movement thing has no other choice but to disappear, because the men are stronger than the women. It's just that men don't know it. They're in a fallen state and they have not had good examples from their fathers.
Yeah. Now, when women do have authority, though, temporarily, because a man is weak or no father around or feminism brainwashed them.
Yeah.
When women get the authority, do they destroy themselves? Are they destructive like that?
Absolutely. Because it's a fake authority. It's not the real deal. It's an imitation of the real thing. And so they end up destroying themselves and the children and the house, the paint on the house, the grass, the dog, the cat, and anyone else that gets in the way. They will destroy it because it's not in their nature to be that way.
That's like Adam and Eve. Eve takes the authority to eat the apple and then just destroys everything. Yeah.
100%.
And Adam was dumb to let her do that. Am I a slut maker?
Yeah.
In my opinion, the sluts are self-made mostly, like a self-made millionaire, self-made slut. But I do have, I don't take responsibility for the actions of women. They're responsible if they're a slut, in my opinion.
I know the women are slut, but men are slut makers.
Sometimes, yeah. So sometimes you could, some people would say, yeah, I'm an expert slut maker, top notch. Sometimes, yeah, if that's how you want to frame it. But I don't, in my opinion, strongly, sluts are mostly self-made, like self-made millionaire.
When you say self-made, what do you mean?
I mean, I'm not responsible for them having sex with 40 men before me. So if I'm number 40, if I'm number 41, I don't understand how she wasn't a slut at number 39, number 40, number 30, and all these things. So women, I think, I support your message very strongly, but most of it. But with sluts, I think mostly they're self-made. They did this to themselves. They did it many, many times before me and other men that have sex out of wedlock. But I'm careful, and I don't help women cheat. That's the one thing I don't do. I'm very, very opposed. I refuse to help women cheat. Adultery, any kind of cheating, infidelity, I hate it. I think it's very, very evil and abusive. So that's one thing I don't do. That's too much slut. That's super slut. So I don't do that.
But if men were not slut makers, women could not be sluts because the man is in reality, the man is the head of the woman. So if he wasn't a slut maker, she couldn't become a slut.
Maybe. My response to that is that women only have sex with a small amount of men, like 20% mostly. Some beta males they'll have sex with too. But mostly they try to find these like very damaged alpha males that had no father and they only had a single mother, and like these rioters and these people. A lot of these are unhinged alpha males, broken alpha males, I would say, fallen alpha males. So even if most men disappeared tomorrow, if 80% of men, like the feminists want to kill all the men, they killed most of the men tomorrow, I think women, they would economize and they would still be sluts with the remaining little portion of men, the population, 20% or whatever's left. So men there's a reciprocal relationship, I believe. I agree with that. That men are enablers of this, but it's women who are the primary drivers of it, I think, because they don't listen to their mother, they don't listen to their father. There's no father around, and they self make into slut. They morph over time like a caterpillar into a slut, butterfly slut.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm not taking the responsibility from the woman because she's responsible for her own action, right?
Yeah.
Because if she wasn't a slut, she couldn't become a slut. If she wasn't, she has control of that. And if she give into it, it's no one else's fault but her own that she became a slut. Absolutely.
Well,
even though men are slut makers, that doesn't mean she got to be a slut.
Yeah. It's also like the dinosaurs. Like the dinosaurs, life will find a way. So like Jurassic sluts, the sluts will find a way if they want to be a slut. They're always going to find a man. They'll hunt them down. These beta males they'll feed them all the attention on Instagram and they'll beg them to have sex and these things. So women, I really think, need to stop being sluts. I agree. But if they want to be a slut, and also there's always been sluts, I think, throughout history.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
a little bit of women, I think, are always going to be fallen prostitutes and strippers and these things. That's been around for thousands and thousands of years. So I don't think it's just most women are being sluts today. That's a big problem. Most women should not be sluts. Very bad for them.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. Well, I think hang on though. I think what's new under the sun is that we have a lot of sluts today. And that's, we have more sluts than ever since the 1960s with birth control and feminism.
It got worse, man. It's out of control.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like a forest fire of sluts. And it's going to burn down the country, I think, with its single motherhood and all these broken families. And it's very bad. It's bad for women. It's bad for kids. It's bad for men.
It's worse than I knew things would get bad if we didn't turn it around.
Yeah.
But I never imagined how bad it would get, right? And if it doesn't turn around soon, we haven't seen anything yet. It gets worse.
Yeah.
And because for more reason than one, but a second reason other than people being, the lack of responsibility. But the other reason that the government, the so-called leaders, they want the people brainwashed, dumbed down, and demoralized in order to get power and wealth for themselves.
And dependent, right?
Right. And they are doing everything they can to demoralize the people. And now they're going after little children and teach them how to have sex before time and introduce them to drag queens and all that crap. So unless something happens, it's going to get worse before it get better.
Yeah, we've seen it. I think since 2013, the awakening, they call it, is when a lot of this really got out of control. And you saw BLM get started soon after that. You saw feminism. Feminism, when I was a kid in the 90s and the 2000s, it was there, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. We got Me Too, and we got all these marches, these pussy hats, and the feminists are getting out of control, along with Antifa, along with BLM. It's all this mishmash mixture of just trash, garbage, a burning pile of trash.
I agree. It's women have no shame. I never imagined that there would come a day when women had literally no shame about being slut. In the beginning, when I first realized about prostitutes and things, there was a little embarrassment about it, a little shame about it, right?
Yep.
But they have taken the shame out of it now. And now these women have no shame at all. They'll do some of the weirdest stuff in the public, and it's just mind-blowing.
Oh, they're proud sluts, super proud. Yeah, it's like a badge of honor.
Sure is, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I don't know what else he's supposed to do with a slut other than have sex with them. Like that's all they want to do anyway. So it sucks. I would love to build a family, and I look forward to doing that. But I think I'm gonna have to go to like Poland and maybe find a wife there because the sluts there are much less sluts over there. But in America, it's tough, man. In Florida, crazy Florida women. I mean, it's wild. It's like an ocean. It's like an ocean to single mothers in Florida and stuff, and single sluts
all over the country. It started to spread in other countries too, because the women in other countries think that seeing the American women doing all this crazy stuff, they think that's a sign of freedom, and so they're now fighting to do the same thing, not realizing that they're setting themselves up to fail, to lose in life, to become even more unhappy. Yeah. So it started to spread a little bit.
Would you say that sluts are enslaved to their own worst impulses?
100%.
Okay.
100%. That's why they got to overcome that. And, we at my nonprofit, we deal with women as well. On the third Thursday night, we have a forum for ladies only, and we deal with those kind of issues. I'm trying to help women overcome that, pointing them back to the right source. And you're absolutely right about that, man. If they don't deal with that, it just gets worse rather than better. And then it's passed on to their children and their children, and so on and so on.
Yep. Yeah, it's like a cycle, like a generational cycle now we're stuck in of just slut after slut after slut. And the sons are broken and they become out either broken alpha males or these little beta male mama's boys.
Yeah. No, it's horrible what's happening. But that's what happened though when you operate from evil. You have to overcome evil with good, and then things will start to get better for you.
Yeah. Now here, let's talk about getting better though. So can you talk to me about the relationship between single motherhood and peaceful burning and looting that we see in the streets? Antifa, BLM, all these things. Because I get the gut feeling that most of these burners and looters and these rioters, they didn't come from families with strong fathers. That just seems to me kind of obvious. So do you have thoughts on single motherhood and the burning?
It's impossible. One thing, you're absolutely right. With all this terrorist attack up on America today, the burning and stealing and robbing and killing and knocking out white people and all this stuff that's going on, it without a doubt, they didn't come from strong families where they had fathers there to guide them in the right way. It would be impossible for these things to happen if they had come from fathers that was strong and leading the way and being a good example. They, if not all, most came from single mothers. And then what the Democrats are doing, they are now letting these people out of prisons and jails. And it's already known that most of the men and women in prisons and jail came from single parents, from women who were not married, women who had children out of wedlock. So absolutely, it could not be happening had they come from home where father was strong, good example, leading the way for his wife and children. It would not be, it would be impossible.
Now, single motherhood is by far, it rose the most in the Black community. It used to be, I think, even a little bit less in the Black community versus the white American community in the 50s, slightly.
Yeah.
And then now it's like 70%. White people are at 40. It used to be 2% 100 years ago. Amazing. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Now, my question though is, do feminists hate Black people? Is that why they infected them with feminism back in the 60s like that? The worst?
It
seems to be what happened.
They hate Black people 100%. And in that state of hatred, that's why they're able to use Black people to bring on destruction, because they have no love for Blacks. They have no respect for them. And they know that most Blacks, not all, but they know that most Black people are available for destruction. If you want to bring in laws for abortion to kill unborn children, what you do, you put the abortion mills in the Black community. There are like 70% of Planned Parenthood abortion mills, unless it changed yesterday. 70% of Planned Parenthood abortion mills are in the inner cities. And then so if you want to get more laws passed against men, they love calling men rapists and abusers and all kind of crap. You get the blacks to help you do that. Whenever they want destruction, they, as I said, they rent a black because they have no respect for black people. The Democrats have no respect for them either, but they have no respect, no love. Black people only purpose on earth today, only purpose is for destruction. It's not for good. I've been saying this for years now on my radio show, and I've asked people to prove me wrong. Show me a city or state or place or country where black people are in control and you want to go live there. You know, like, well, I can't go. I can't wait to go live in that area. Black people are running it. So far, no one has ever been able to prove me wrong, because I don't, especially in this country, I don't know anywhere in this country where black people are in control and you want to live there. It's nothing but confusion, chaos, destruction, gangs and violence and ghettos and all kind of out of wedlock births and abortion mills and all that. Black people don't build, man. They destroy.
Now, separate from the cities and the states, is there any country in the world that black people should want to live in more than America? Anywhere else?
Not that I'm aware of. None that I'm aware of, because if you notice, the foreigners from all over the world are trying to get here.
Yeah.
I don't see the blacks trying to leave, even though they're complaining. I don't see them trying to leave here and go anywhere else. They claim that there's this group of black people. They're dressed in black. They were down in Georgia recently at Stone Mountain, Georgia, something like that. Okay. And they were protesting and all that. And one of the things they said is that they demand that white America give them a state in this country. They want Texas. They want to get away from the whites, and they want Texas. And if white people don't give them their own land in America, they're going to leave and go to some other country that will give them land. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. But if you left and some other country gave you land, you're just going to turn it into a ghetto. Because if you can't make it in America, you can't make it anywhere. And they always want something free, thinking that if someone gave them something free, they're going to improve upon it. It doesn't work like that.
Now, you're a black man, but on your Twitter...
It's a space.
Now, but I see in your Twitter and other places, you say that you're not African American, you're 100% American. Why do you say that?
I always tell people that I don't wear an afro. I have an Amerifro. There are no African drums beating in my chest. The American guitar is playing in my heart. As black as the ace of spades, born on a plantation, raised on a plantation in Alabama, under the Jim Crow law, but 100% American. I'm not African American. I'm 100% American. I was born in this country. I didn't have to fill out an application to come here. I didn't have to wait in line. I was blessed by God that my mama dropped me in Alabama, USA. And I'm grateful.
Your parents are born here too?
Yes. My parents and their parents and all this crap about ancestor and slavery is just a bunch of hogwash. And it's been used against the blacks to hate America. And fortunately, my parents didn't do that to me. Their parents didn't do that to them. It came after the so-called civil rights movement happened. It's something new. I'm sure you could have found some blacks, I guess, doing that, but it was unheard of when I was growing up. I'm not aware of that at all, because parents in those days, they loved America. They loved being Americans. They were for the country and not against it.
And they love their children. They didn't let them get brainwashed with a lot of this garbage.
That's right.
The drag queen story time and all these wild things.
Abortion. It was unheard of to have an abortion in those days. Yeah. I don't know any woman who had an abortion while growing up in Alabama. But that's all gone now. Everybody and their mama have abortions. Young girls as young as 15, 13, they're having abortion, and it's no big deal. Blacks are being used by Planned Parenthood to make money. They don't care about killing the children. They care about the money. And because the men are not there to protect the women and children, it is out of control. That's why we got to restore the order of God.
Now, here's a good question I'd like to get your thoughts on. Kanye West recently, he entered the presidential race. What are your thoughts on that happening? And he turned to Jesus and these things before that as well. What are your thoughts on that? Because before that, he was a Trump supporter with the MAGA hat wearing that,
Yeah.
but now he's running himself. What was your first reaction when you saw that?
I was surprised, but I like the idea. In
Okay.
America, you can do what you want. You can stand up for the country or you can stand against the country. I like the idea that he is willing to stand for the country. I know he supported the president, the great white hope. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's standing for the country. He's not going to be able to win this time around, but maybe this is setting him up for next time. I like the fact that he seemed to have admitted that he was wrong and he turned his life over to God. He is now, according to what I've read and heard, he's trying to correct his wife and protect his children. So I like the fact we're supposed to make a change from evil to good. And he seemed to be doing it. And I know that the Democrats and others are trying to make him look like he's crazy or something because he's having an influence on blacks in the Democratic Party. And the last thing that the Democrats want is for blacks to leave the Democratic Party, because if black people leave the Democratic Party, it will be over for that party. It wouldn't exist anymore. Yeah. And so Kanye West is having a major influence on that. A lot of young people listen to him. Mm-hmm. And so he's like a nightmare for the Democrats. That's why they're trying to make him look like he's crazy or he's just another off guy. Yeah. But he's having a positive impact. That's why they hate him.
Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts? You mentioned the blacks leaving the Democratic Party because they vote overwhelmingly Democrats. There are some blacks that vote for Republicans and Trump. You're obviously one. The Hodge twins. There's others now. But what are your thoughts on Candace Owens and her Blexit movement that she got going a couple years ago?
I don't know a lot about her. I know that she is at one time I heard that she was a Democrat, and now she's a conservative, a Republican at least. Yeah. And that they have this movement going where they're bringing blacks away from the Democratic Party, and some of them are becoming Republicans. I like that idea that blacks are becoming Republicans, but I don't like the idea of them having the same mindset. Mm-hmm. I think that if they're going to be a part of the Republican Party, they need to renew their minds and not think like liberal Democrats, because I don't want blacks to be a part of the conservative movement just to have blacks in the party. Yeah. But they have the same ideas. There's this guy that's he's a part of an organization called the Turning Point, and he's black. I believe his name is Rob Smith or something like that. And he is a Republican now, but he's a homosexual, a male with a so-called husband, right? And his husband is white, so they're a mixed couple. So I don't want that kind of crap, in the Republican Party, because the Republican Party the platform is about God, country, freedom, capitalism. You can earn your way. We're about values. We're about God. We put God first.
Constitution.
Constitution. That's right. And then we start letting these people in just because they're black, but they're coming in with their corrupt values. Eventually, the Republican Party will become the Democratic Party, because if they're homosexuals and lesbians and all that stuff, and they don't want you to correct them, they're gonna eventually turn the Republican Party into the Democratic Party. And the right-o Republicans are already afraid to correct homosexuals, and
those are the fake Republicans, right? The fakes.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of Republicans are letting these people in, like Rob Smith, the black homosexual. They won't even correct this guy because I've said, you can't be a Christian and a conservative and a homosexual. That doesn't work that way. But the rhinos will not correct these guys because they want the votes. They don't care about the lack of values.
Well, Tommy Lauren at Fox News is a pro-abortion conservative. Didn't you get the memo?
Yeah. See, we don't need that in the Republican Party because
That's
eventually it'll
that's the new
become the
normal.
Democrat.
That's the new normal. Pro-abortion conservative, Tommy Lauren.
Yeah, and we don't need that. And then a lot of these people calling themselves Christians, but you can't be a Christian and be of God. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm concerned about that. I don't know where this woman Candace Owens stand on all that, but if she's for homosexuals and not correcting them and all that crap that's coming with her, I'm not for her doing that at all.
Okay.
I think that the reason I became a conservative Republican is because when I was in the fallen state, I was a Democrat, and the Democratic Party has no values at all, so it was okay to be that way. I read the platform of the Democratic Party, of the Republican Party, and it was about God, country, Constitution, freedom, family. And so that's why I became a Republican. I don't want that to change. But if you let all these crazy ideas into the party, it will change.
Yeah. And now you mentioned gay marriage a minute ago, too. I did want to ask you about this. Senator Rand Paul and former Congressman Ron Paul, years ago and then currently with Senator Rand Paul, they have advocated for private marriage, which means that marriage becomes a thing that the government has no say in at all. And it becomes a private religious ceremony before your religious community and the church and all that. Would you be in favor of that, getting the government out of marriage completely? And then it's only before God and your family and friends?
100%. I would totally be in favor of that, as long as it's between a man and a woman. Okay. But as long as the government hand is in it, it's going to be between anybody. You can marry your cat, your dog, your pig, two men, an elephant, and a sheep, because the government has no values. So there's no limit as to what they would allow to happen. But if it become private, the way it should be anyway, the only reason it's in the government hands because they want taxes, they want money from it.
Yeah.
And so if it become private, absolutely, especially if it's for a man and a woman only and between them and God, I would be 100% in favor of that.
Okay. In your opinion, based on that, do you think the government screws up almost anything it touches?
Everything
like
it touches. Everything. That's why less government in your life, the better off you are. When I was growing up, it was unheard of for the government to be involved in your life. I didn't even know the government would get involved because we had family. We lived by what was right. We believed in God. We had fathers and mothers and grandparents and all that good stuff. It wasn't until the civil rights movement started, I went up north, when I started to see the government, I became aware of the government being involved and all this other stuff. But less government in your life, the better off you are. And by the way, it's we the people, not we the government. We need to take back the government, small government, and we need to take it back, because look what's happening. As the government grows, things only get worse. They do not get better. So we got to take it back.
Do you think Donald Trump winning the White House in 2016 was the beginning of that? Taking back our government?
4 more years, exactly. That's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons we got to re-elect the president for another 4 years, because if the Democrats take over, and they're like so far left now and so far radical, that it will only get worse rather than getting better.
Yep. Well, sir, I appreciate your time today. I know you got to go. You have to get going. You got another appointment. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on today on the Red Man Group, episode 117. We've had a lot of guys in the chat here. Very excited to see you on the show. I look forward to meeting you in person soon at the 21 Convention for Men and the 21 Convention Patriarch Edition for Fathers and the 22 Convention for Women. We're going to make women great again. I think you're going to do a great job at that. I'm very excited to have you speak there, especially.
Right on. We're going to have a hootenanny every time, man. I am looking forward to meeting you and the rest of the people as well.
Yes,
it's going to be nice.
Yeah. Your old friend, you met Elliot Hulse, one of our top speakers. He'll be there speaking at all the events like you.
Right on. That's good. No, I expect a good turnout. I want the people to come out. I want to meet everybody and their mama. And we're just going to have an amazing time. And I think it's going to work out for the good, because we have people that are, from what I've read about it and heard about it, we have people who come in who sincerely want to put things back to the way they should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For all of America, all the races, all the religions, all of it. We've met many men and women gathering, different backgrounds, different ages, generations, religions. and they love family, they love masculinity, they love femininity, all these things. Good
Yes,
things that they need.
that's right. Well, it's an honor to talk to you today, man. I look forward to shaking your hand.
Yes, sir. I'm going to end the show, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in live to the Red Man Group. See you on Saturday. Adios.